The date is September the 7th, 2021, and This Week in Modern returns. I am Mean Mono Green of Llanowar, welcoming you back to the program. I'd like to thank all the returning fans for joining us again, and any newcomers for jumping in a new way to experience the modern news of the week. All the stories fit to be told about the format will be here, but before we get to them, our first season, such as it is coming to an end. What was your favorite part? What do you think we can do better? Leave a comment on our YouTube video, and next week, one lucky person will receive 5 MTGO treasure chests from the Mana Symbol channel, or a free donation deck to be played there. And while you're down there, if you hit that like button, it'll help us all out. With all that said, this week's talking points will be covering the Trophy Tussle, talking about the week's prelims, then the modern challenges, a few 5-0 features, and a very special interview. This Week in Modern presents the Trophy Tussle. With 1 week, that's only 7 days and 12 hours remaining in the trophy race, there's no way we delay giving you the hottest and juiciest information about the trophy race, now down to aspiring Spike and why Principe. Spike's got a great attitude heading into this final week, stating today on his stream, "I'm really excited to win." Spike did manage a small lead earlier this week, but why Principe has come roaring back to the top of the board. So let's take a look. With 36 trophies apiece, why Principe and aspiring Spike are tied, with Principe having grabbed the most recent trophy and therefore being on top for the moment. The Tunneling Cat has reached her goal of 3rd place, vaulting over Canister to 26 trophies and a small lead in the 3rd place race. Canister, now returned from his week off, remains on the board in 4th with 24 trophies. And finally, Dark Horse Silent Sea Song, unmentioned for the first several weeks of our program, has continued to hold the 5th place slot on the trophy board. Spike spent some of the last week tweaking a mono-green devotion deck that proved unfruitful until the addition of Eldrazi, which gave him a fairly successful Stompy Shell. And this week he started off with a Jund Sacrifice deck playing exclusively good cards. A bold gambit, and we wish him luck. Why Principe has been mostly sticking to the hits, crushing along with the deck that brought him here, Mono Green Tron. The Tunneling Cat, the Eldrazi expert, has continued as well with her signature E-Tron build for trophies, but has also been streaming a number of different flavors, including red, green, and red-green Eldrazi. Canister MTG has returned from his week away from the game, bringing back a completely refreshed monotone energy to his stream, experimenting with whatever deck catches his fancy on a given day. Down in the trophy lagging area, Hugo Freitas, previously known for Storm and recently tearing up on Rhinos, is tied at 22 trophies with previous trophy contender Giovanni MF and Andy Awkward. Any of these folks move on up to the 3rd place spot by the end of the race? We'll soon find out, but for now, let's take a look at this week's prelims. Last week's surge in interest in the Jund Lurrus archetype seems to have dialed back, with Teamer Footfalls and Blue-Red Murktide standing head and shoulders above all others, with 4 and 5 copies respectively in the 3-1 or better records of this week's prelims. Eldrazi Tron made an appearance again, showing that the colorless conquerors can still play with the big boys from time to time. The rest of the prelims were relatively quiet and diverse, showing a slight lull in creativity from the grinders, other than Nazart, who played an astounding 5 equipment Griefblade list to a 3-1 finish. Will this lack of innovation and ingenuity carry through to the weekend, though? Let's take a look at the Saturday and Sunday challenges. This Week in Modern presents Challenge Recaps. After a short nap from the top of the competitive scene, Living End is back with Eric 157751 running a smooth 8-0 through the Swiss and straight to the top, taking down Mono White Hammer played by Rexjack in the final round. The standout of the top 8 was just under that though, with First Turn Negator making a 4th place on Blue Moon. Not Blue-Red Murktide, though it does feature a number of that card. The final semifinals deck was Red-White Classic Burn with the inclusion of Lurrus. The quarterfinalists include no archetypical overlap with the top 4, with Jund Sagavan, a Velomachus Turns split build list, Blue-Black Mill, and Cascade Rhinos, giving us 8 for 8 on different decks in the top 8. Modern competitive diversity at its finest. However, the top 8 was not a clean cut, with 2 6-2 records in the top 8, and those who missed out on the top 8 trailing all the way down to 18th. Some of those decks include Lanny NY on Domain, who only just missed the top slot, ending in 9th, Mr. Cafulet on Blue-White Control in 12th, and a crazy build in 17th from Grilled Cheese MTG, piloted by Reanimator Fiend, Mardu Goryo's Vengeance. This deck uses an aggressive core of Ragavan and Dragon's Rage Channeler to set up Emrakul or Griselbrand coming through the breach or back from the graveyard with a vengeance. This strategy is certainly going to catch some people by surprise, and the record alone here means that there may be some space for further development of this up-and-comer. Mono White Taxes managed a 24th place finish in the hands of V, who decided to sleeve up the Sky Noodle Urian in addition to the classic Leonin Arbiter Stoneforge Mystic Disruptive deck. Finally, worthy of mention, brewer and competitor Talisker managed a 30th place finish on Black-Green Infect with a very clean build featuring 4 of Glistener Elf, Ignoble Hierarch, Phyrexian Crusader, and Plague Stinger. The diversity in the top 8 was reflected down the field, with the most competitive known decks heading into the weekend showing up in roughly equal numbers. Those of Teamer Footfalls, Living End, Red-White Burn, and Hammer Time, and a perhaps unsurprising spike in creativity decks after Wafo Tapa's win last Saturday. But would the Sunday challenge show us the same amount of diversity that Saturday did? The surge in Murktide in the prelims earlier this week might have been a sign of nothing but variance, but Gabe Nassif didn't think so, going all the way to the top and winning the Sunday challenge, playing a very stock version of this blue-red tempo mainstay of the post-Modern Horizons 2 format. Hammer Time keeps finding its way into the finals, this time in the hands of South American grinder Laplace John, who is playing a build that splashed black for Thoughtseize in the sideboard. Mill finally made a semi-finals appearance in the hands of Mill specialist Blitz Lion, playing a version with 4 main deck Soul Guide Lantern, as well as a number of each of Kaya's Guile and Prismatic Ending, as well as a sideboard copy of Hide Seek, proving that the deep well of split cards has not yet been exhausted. The Jun Sagavan list from 3rd place also had a noteworthy tweak in their removal suite, 3 copies of Fatal Push, and 4 copies of Unholy Heat, with nary a Lightning Bolt to be found, perhaps adjusting for the Tarmogoyf mirror matches that have become more common of late. The bottom half of the top 8 include a copy of Blue-Black Thing in the Ice Dress Down Control, another Blue-Red Murktide, Tribal Flames Zoo, which had just missed out on the top 8 on Saturday on Breakers, and finally Currywore on a deck that they've been piloting in various forms for a while, Blue-White Flash Midrange with Urian as both the companion and more copies of Urian in the main deck. But down the challenge, we've got some standout placements, including Enchantress in 12th place, Red-Green Belcher in 13th place, Giglio MTG on his Red-Green Delirium deck in 19th place, and Ad Nauseam in 22nd. The overall meta continues to churn, with a Cascade deck, Living End, taking home the top spot on Saturday, and next to no Cascade decks placing highly on the Sunday, with some of the most powerful decks lacking consistency or being vulnerable to hate or specific other archetypes, and the consistent decks lacking slightly in power compared to some of the most broken draws from these more powerful archetypes. This has been an ideal spot for some excellent innovation and fun random decks to show up in the 5-0 deck dump, so let's take a look. First up, a bizarre looking creation from EDH Player, an Abzan Reanimator deck playing 4 copies of Timuret Calls the Dead and 2 copies of Binding of the Old Gods, which synergize with Hex Parasite. Whoa. This Abzan Reanimator deck is looking to mill over its Archon of Cruelties and Grave Titans, and have a strong mid-range game plan with Hex Parasite and this bevy of sagas. A parade of Eldrazi aggro brews have been popping off this week, with Spike having brewed up his mono green list earlier this week, and mono red and red green showing up in the 5-0s consistently, demonstrating that acceleration, monkeys, and bolts play pretty nicely with the faceless horrors from beyond our world. Popular prison pilot Fluffy Wolf 2 has managed a 5-0 on a mono-red prison update, which they think might be the best version out there. And when compared with the wide range of other red prison decks, I'm sure we'd all draw the same conclusion. The Nobodies grabbed a posting on Marduk's Saga Boom, combining Boom Bust, Cleansing Wildfire, and Flagstones of Trocare, as well as Vindicate, for a lot of different ways to disrupt your opponent's mana. And Urza Saga and Karn, Scion of Urza for mid-range power and the ability to put out a shockingly large board, widened with 4 copies of Lingering Souls. Grilled Cheese MTG's Goryo DRC Monkey deck from last week has been getting some love and continues to evolve, with some versions now opting for Asmorano Marketice Nakuldakar and Wishclaw Talisman, and eschewing Through the Breach. We've pulled a few more exciting lists for those interested, including Humans with Grist, Red-Green Midrange with Kragenwick Cremator, and Colorless Mystic Forge TKS Prison, as well as Mono-Red Midrange with Chandra's Regulator. And you can check all these out in our show notes, available below this video or in the episode description of your podcast player. Well, we've got a first interview of an exciting upcoming series here. I've managed to secure a call with the sometimes maligned, sometimes celebrated Ragavan, the Pilfering Pirate, and pick his brain, excuse the metaphor, about his place in the meta. Joining us by phone, Ragavan the Nimble Pilferer. Ragavan. Well, you've had a fairly immediate and consistent effect on this metagame. How do you feel about all the success? How do you mean? Do you think hate might be a strong word? So it's not all glitz and glamour being the world's most successful pilferer. Wow, I wish I could get money like that. Who's your agent? Well, one last question. Do you have a favorite in the trophy race? Well, thanks for your time, and best of luck in the future. Well, that's about it for this week in Modern, but if you've got any feedback, questions, or comments, you can contact me at twimmtg on twitter.com or email us at thisweekinmodern@gmail.com. This is Mean Mono Green of Llanowar wishing you the best of top decks and the best of luck. Play safe.